Hello and welcome to the channel's book club. Happy New Year. I hope you had a great end to 2014 and you are up for the opportunities of 2015. When we first got this audio book titled The Devil's Arithmetic, we were curious about its title, cover picture, and content. But it turned out to be interesting enough to host its author. Ladi Thompson is a strategic analyst with experience in opinion molding and consensus building in national security and international affairs. He is known for his contributions to security issues and conflict resolution management. He is also a respected bridge builder among the various expressions of faith in Nigeria. Stay tuned for this knowledge-filled interview after we take a short break. So Thompson, it's a pleasure to have you on the channel's book club.
The pleasure really is mine, sir.
The Devil's Arithmetic. I have to confess, when I first heard that, I said, I'm not going to scare viewers with that title. But when I began to listen to it, I realized the content. I said, this is something almost every Nigerian, every African, every black person, should listen to. It's very intriguing. Well done, sir.
Thank you very much.
Good work.
Yes.
But let's start by, can you explain what this is all about?
Well, it's very simple. You notice a pattern when you look at the life of the average African. You begin to notice that there are limitations. And you find out that there's something that is repetitive. It's almost like self-replicating from generation to generation. And let me explain what I mean. For instance, the average African child, no matter where he is from in Africa, as long as he's been a part of the African experience, has a limitation in terms of his imagination. If we look today and we look at a car, the replacement of maybe the technology on which cars run today, it's difficult to find any African child dreaming from a young age that he is going to be the one to design a new engine that runs on water or something like that. Now, it's the same thing with the females. It's something that's not only scientific, it's also literal in the fields of literature. It's also in the field of emotions. You find out that there seems to be a pattern of a limitation. And in Africa, if we look at spiritually what limitations are, they translate into curses. So when you see these patterns, you want to investigate and find out, why is this so? Why is it that when a whale washes up ashore in some country, people would admire the whale, keep it alive, and help it back into the ocean? But if a whale washes up in Africa, people would descend upon it. First of all, superstition is the reaction. They say some deity or goddess has come to visit. And then the next thing, when they have lost their fear, they descend upon it with machetes, and instead of seeing what is good, all they see is food. Now, it is abnormal for any set of people to do things the same way for over a century. Now, without any interference, if, for instance, you see a people who prepare pounded yam in a particular way, after 50 years, somebody should be thinking. Now, when you begin to notice that there's a set of people who remain doing things the same way, it dawns on you that something somewhere has interfered with the natural process of the average human who, by expression, is creative, expressive, and appreciative of the things around us. So this led me into a big, vast investigation. I could see it right from the dawn of human history. I could pick these things, to the apartheid, to slave trade, to the products of Nazi Germany. I'm talking about the fact that Booker T. Washington, when you listen to people like E.W. Du Bois, you go all the way to Martin Luther King, Malcolm X. As you move around the entire world, you see it's not an African preserve. So you discover there's an equation. There's an equation behind the scene that applied to a people will set a ceiling on their expressions, makes them backwards. As a matter of fact, it makes them more like beasts than like men. For instance, you won't see dogs in a yard, no matter how dirty a yard is. The dogs will not call a meeting to announce that they want to clean up the yard. You see? So what you find out is that you can tamper with human beings. There's a formula. We discovered the formula after a lot of research. I'm talking about 10, 15 years of research. After about 15 years of research, I actually did find out there's a formula that is available that you can run people groups through. And that formula helps you to do three things. You break their spirits, crush their souls, and then you yoke their bodies, and you can predict the ambit of progress they will ever make throughout their lives. And if you know how to work that formula, you can even control the whole continent like that. That's why we called it the devil's arithmetic. Arcane, very terrible.
Now, so this has to do with your researching into the critical problems of the black race. Is that correct?
Well, of the human race, I'd like to put it better, because there are two sides to the devil's arithmetic. There's a set of persons who oppress the others, who sometimes call themselves a master race or whatever it is in apartheid, in Nazi Germany, wherever it is, it's the same formula. And what happens is that the people who are oppressed, you find them actually behaving more like beasts than like real human beings. Now, even the oppressor too, you will find out he has to sell his soul to be able to apply the kind of brutality and terror that you need to apply this equation. So both the oppressor and the oppressed are equally affected. They become non-humans. They are both beasts of some sort.
Now, for the sake of the very curious viewer,
Yes.
what have you said in this audiobook? What are the critical things, the core things?
Now, I think for those who are Africans, it's an audiobook. I think the 5th chapter and the 7th chapter cover certain basics. I talk about Nigeria, for instance, in one of the chapters. The average person doesn't know that the person who designed Nigeria was a mercurial fellow whose name was Tubman Goldie. He came here in 1877.
They call him the father of modern Nigeria.
He is the father, truly, of modern Nigeria. But what people don't realize about him is this. He was a student of ancient Rome, the Roman Empire. And when he came in here, he designed something and modeled it after the East Indian Company. And what his plan was for Nigeria was not to make a country that could be self-ruled. So he applied all the elements of the devil's arithmetic in setting up Nigeria. Now, the reason today why we speak English and we're more British than French, as we were in West Africa, Francophone countries and Anglophone countries, is because he forged treaties. He was a criminal. He was a terrible person. He was the first to introduce the word amalgam, the amalgamation. He was the one who designed the future of Nigeria. He designed the foundation of Nigeria. And before he died, he did something. If you know how the devil's arithmetic works all over the world, you are not allowed to leave any written documents behind of how you achieve your evil purposes. Before he died, he burnt every document that had to do with the creation of Nigeria. Then he called all his children together and placed a curse on his children. Should any one of them publish any papers that they discovered after his death. So you find out that to apply what this equation called the devil's arithmetic, there's an almost occultic dimension. So it's amazing to see a man like Tubman Goldie created Nigeria, refused to take the public acceptance for the fact that he created Nigeria. He was the one who employed Frederick Lugard.
Lugard, yeah.
He brought Lugard in 1895 or when he was just creating the UAC and all that, to be a gunman. And when finally we became chartered and the British took over. He sold us to the British, as it were. They brought back Lugard because Lugard had understudied him. And if you don't understand how Nigeria was put together, you can never rule Nigeria successfully. And that's why no matter what we do in Nigeria, generation after generation, if we don't gain an understanding of the workings of the devil's arithmetic in our foundation, it's going to be difficult to produce anything productive or progressive out of this nation.
I'm guessing that's just one of many things.
Oh, well, you can bet. You can bet.
One of many things.
Yes, you can bet.
Okay, this is interesting. Now, we're definitely going to do a review of this on another episode, definitely. But why have you created this as an audiobook? Is there a paper copy coming out later?
Yes. We have created an audiobook first because the people who need it the most right now, the continent that has everything that God can use to bless it and just can't harness it. If there's any nation that should be a leading nation of the world, it's Nigeria right now. And it's obvious